I just want to explore the issue of well-being and ill-being in people living with dementia, and how, again, the way that we view this differs so dramatically different to the medical model approach to it. So historically in the medical model, a lot of what we see in the way people with dementia express themselves has been labelled, and it's been labelled and boxed into a whole variety of different language over the years, from difficult behaviour to challenging behaviour to responsive behaviour. So we put this label of a behaviour around the way people with dementia express themselves. And historically in the medical model, that behavioural understanding has sat once again within the neurodegeneration of the brain. So a person with dementia is behaving in this way because they've got dementia. At Alzheimer's WA, we think of this differently. We really think about it in terms of the lived experience that a person's having. And is the way that their behaviour is representing the lived experience that the person's having, rather than blaming the dementia or the brain damage that's occurring. So if a person with dementia is in pain, for example, and maybe the person with dementia has arthritic knees, and so to sit for a long period of time is actually really painful for the person with dementia. Now, the person might have lost their ability to communicate that to you or to their family or to the staff in the residential home. But the pain's still there, and the feeling of pain's still there. And so because they can't verbally say to you, I'm in pain, go get me some painkillers, they will actually respond to that distress that the pain's causing. And the logical thing for any of us, dementia or no dementia, if you're in that situation, might be to get up and have a walk, because walking might actually be more comfortable than sitting if you've got arthritic joints. So the person with dementia gets up and goes for a walk. Now, that might happen regularly, every 15-20 minutes, because it's just too painful to sit for a long period of time. But rather than us actually exploring why that person is getting up and walking so much, we put it down to dementia, and we say the person is wandering, and we give another label to the behaviour. And we say this person is wandering, and why are they wandering? Well, they're wandering because they've got dementia. And then we say, well, we don't want them to wander because we think that's a bad thing, and we make our judgment and we put our values on that, and we say, well, they may be at risk of falling, or they may go into areas that we don't want them to go into, or we don't think they should be walking as much as they are, and we very much put our own judgment onto that. And then we slip back into that old medical paradigm of management. And so we go, well, do you know what? There's nothing much we can do about the dementia, and the wandering's being caused by the dementia, so we'll have to try and treat the wandering. And we'll do that by using a sedative, for example. And so we see lots of use of restraint, be it chemical restraint or physical restraint, sometimes occurs in a situation like that because they're trying to manage the behaviour within an old dementia paradigm. Whereas if they'd have actually looked at the individual and looked at, why might this person be walking so much? And is it actually so bad that they're walking so much? Because it actually might be something they've done all their life. I don't know about you, but I love to go for a walk. I walk 2 or 3 times a day. I have a dog, and there's nothing better than hitching up the dog on the lead and heading out and going for a walk. So that's part of my normal pattern of behaviour. And that won't change if I get dementia. And yet I'll probably be labelled a wanderer because I just am continuing to do the things that have always mattered to me. So if we don't understand that behaviour is normal and we all do it, and that won't change if you get dementia, and B, that sometimes where behaviour might be more exaggerated or maybe is out of the norm, then it probably and more than likely isn't being caused by something that's changed in the brain. It's probably and more than likely being caused by the person trying to either fulfill one of those domains of well-being, so maybe they're bored, maybe they just need some autonomy, maybe they're just reflecting their individuality of who they are as a person, or they're in distress. And I see this a lot. I see a lot of people with dementia who fall into what we call a state of ill-being. So the domains of well-being are about how we feel when we're positive and that our needs are being met. Ill-being is the reverse of that. So when we're actually feeling really unhappy, when we're feeling really distressed, and I see a lot of what's been labelled as difficult or challenging or responsive behaviour is in fact people expressing how much distress they're in. And if we don't get to understand the cause of the distress and actually respond to the distress, then we're not going to be able to help the person. And once again, we fall into a very slippery and quick slope of using medication that is often sedative in effect to try and stop the person doing the behaviour. But that's just a sticky plaster response. It's like having a broken leg and putting a bandage on it. It doesn't stop the fact that you've got a broken leg. And so we really have to understand where this distress might be coming from, and then we can start to look for answers to that solution. And I believe the answers to that solution lie within the domains of well-being and person-centeredness, because again, most of the distress that I see in people living with dementia is because they're fallen into a state of ill-being because of what's happening to them, or because of physical pain that's been unaddressed and unmet needs in that regard. So there is a great complexity to this, and unless we shift our thinking about understanding well-being and ill-being and then what difference we can make to that, then we're never going to be able to help people with dementia have a different lived experience through their journey. So that's, in summary, the models and philosophies and approaches that we use at Alzheimer's WA. We have been on this journey for 15 years. It's a continuous journey. We're still not there. We're still a long way from where we can be, but we're doing great things to get us to where we need to be for people living with dementia.